As always, please retry the question before watching the video. There's only one thing you need to know to be able to answer this question. That is, what is the WTD for placement questions? The WTD for placement questions is look for the hook. Look for the hook. So what do we mean by that? Ask yourself, what is the hook in the sentence that I'm about to say to you? Terrified, comma, he ran the other way. Terrified, comma, he ran the other way. What is the hook in that sentence? The hook is a thing that tells you what must come before or after it. What is the hook in that sentence? The hook is terrified because that is telling us that what must come before this sentence is whatever terrified him. So it is a clue as to what must come before the sentence. And so that's what we're always looking for when we're dealing with placement questions is what is the hook? There's some other tips that can help you get these correct, but the hook is the most reliable way of answering these questions. So let's look for the hook in what we are adding to this essay. Locating these objects, however, proved difficult. So these objects is part of our hook. And then we will actually have another hook in here. Proved difficult ends up being a hook for what it must come before. So we'll talk about that as well as we go through this. But we need to have whatever's before this, locating these objects. So we need to know what it must come right after what these objects are. So let's look at answer F. Point A in paragraph 1. Point A in paragraph 1 is the very first sentence in the essay, and therefore it can't reference these objects. We don't know what these objects are. So answer F is gone because there is nothing that comes before it, and we need to know what these objects are referring to. Answer G, point B in paragraph 2. All right, so point B in paragraph 2. So we just talked about these brown dwarfs, as astronomer Jill Tarter later termed them, raised key questions about how matter in the universe evolves. So here, these objects refers to these brown dwarfs. So this one does immediately follow something that explains what these objects are. And so now the next part of the hook is we need to know if what comes after is explaining or talking about how the objects, why the objects, or something about the objects being hard to find. More massive, so this is what would come after it. So it does confirm we have what these dwarfs or these objects are, which is brown dwarfs, more massive than Jupiter, but not massive enough to fuel the fusion reactions that make stars brightly shine. Brown dwarfs are too dim to be observed through telescopes. And so what comes after is an explanation of why they were hard to find. So this is perfect. It explains what these objects are, and it sets up after it an explanation of why they were hard to find. So this is perfect. It satisfies both of our hooks in this sentence. So almost certainly going to be a right answer. We'll look at H just to see if we can easily eliminate these answers. All right, so H is point C in paragraph 2. All right, so point C in paragraph 2. All right, let's see if it describes what these objects are. Astronomers had to rely on advanced ways of finding elusive orbs. So these objects here would be elusive orbs. But the problem with this is what comes after. Their first clue lay in the process of nuclear fusion. We already have an understanding of why these are hard to find. And the entire paragraph before is about these being hard to find. So we wouldn't need to say again that these objects are hard to find because the entire paragraph prior to this is talking about these being hard to find. So this would just be a redundancy if we put it where answer H is. So the second hook is not satisfied of introducing, proved difficult or being in the proper place for where we need to be told that this is proved, difficult finding these objects. Answer J, paragraph D. So, I mean, we could already know that these are going to be wrong because that whole paragraph told us they were hard to find. So anything later is just going to be a redundancy because we already know that they're hard to find. But just for looks, we'll take a look at point D in paragraph 3. All right. The first clue lay in the process of nuclear fusion. So that does not explain what these objects are, so that hook is not satisfied. So we've eliminated answer J, confirming G. If this made sense to you, please add it to your worksheet, write what you learned along with the answer, and then continue on to the next placement question that you missed on this test. If this is the last placement question, which it likely is because it's the last question on this test, please go ahead and do the placement mastery until you get 10 questions correct in a row. Placement mastery will take a long time, so just prepare yourself for that. But if you're missing these, then it is worth your time to drill them so you are exposed to all the variations and tricks that they will throw at you. And then come back to this test and finish the next category that you missed the most of.